Venomfangx. It never really ceases to amaze me the readiness at which people who don't know what they're talking about like to talk. Your utter ignorance on the subject of evolution is just astounding, but what's even more amazing is the fact that you feel the need to proclaim and produce videos denouncing it, and likewise, and at the same time, demonstrating your utter lack of knowledge on the subject. I mean, I was always personally raised that if you don't know what you're talking about, don't talk. But because some people don't have that privilege of an upbringing like that, here I am, trying to refute your video anyways. Well, I'd like to start by saying that I really don't like to make it a habit of debating creationists. There really isn't much of a debate. I mean, responding to claims like this with such, shoddy research is pretty much as much of debating as hunting dairy cows with a high-powered rifle and scope is hunting. But nevertheless, falsifiable. You don't think evolution is falsifiable. And you feel the need to make videos of it? I mean, this is day one biology. How do you not understand this yet feel qualified to make videos about it? Here are some ways you can falsify evolution. You can find me a poodle from the Permian period. As we all know, the fossil record is clearly dated with more complex organisms on top and primitive ones down at the bottom. Or should I say, more and less evolved ones. Find me one out of order. Another thing you could do is find me a non-mammal with nipples. At any time, during development even. What about during embryology? I just made a video on it, you should check it out. Or you could find young, adult, whatever. In fact, just find an animal with the genes for making nipples that's not a mammal. We won't find it. Another thing you could do is find a half-mammal, half-bird transitional form. Out of all the transitional forms we have, not a single one is half-mammal, half-bird. And if you bring up the platypus, that's a perfect example actually of an analogous structure, not a homologous one. Furthermore, humans would not have a fused chromosome. That's just a simple another way that you could disprove evolution. Again, if you want to get educated on it, you could take a look at just my Proof of Evolution 1 video, in which Ken Miller describes it perfectly. It's yet another simple way to falsify evolution. But more importantly, you could find a single gene in a single organism that doesn't follow an evolutionary trend. That'd be the fantastic and just a picture-perfect way to disprove evolution. In fact, go to pubmed.com. That's PUBMED.com. There you can do a BLAST search, or any sort of nucleotide sequence search. I'd recommend starting with the cytochrome C or any other highly conserved gene. Just find a single one that doesn't fit evolutionary predictions. A single gene in a single organism. Second of all, you go on committing a huge fallacy saying, well, if it's not evolution, then it's automatically intelligent design, which is about as valid and logical as saying, if my car isn't blue, it's red. If I have to explain this to you why that's wrong, then... Thirdly, nylonase. You say that it's not an increase in traits. Can digest nylon? Can't digest nylon. It's a trait. Here's a bacteria that cannot digest nylon, now it can. Furthermore, I could see if you possibly had a point if you were arguing about, it's just an increase in substrate specificity, which it's simply not the case. The prior protein product was non-functional, for one, due to an induced stop codon. Second of all, the nylonase gene has a very, very high specificity for its substrate. This completely discounts what you're saying. It is a trait that we have seen observed. Nylon-eating bacteria. It simply doesn't happen before. And it's not a non-specific protein product simply because it's an amino acid substitution, or insertion rather, actually at place 99, and it induces a stop codon 392 amino acids away. This is completely different than the prior product. We have seen the induction of a brand new novel enzyme, but it's not even this. There are plenty of others, such as the CCR5 gene as well, or a mutation in it which grants immunity to AIDS. Once again, a trait. Immune to AIDS, not immune to AIDS, and there's no impairment in cellular function whatsoever. You could also take a look at the PCPB and PCPC genes. Again, a novel enzyme for digesting PCP. Or in fact, you could take a look at the Australian wall lizard, which was actually just somewhat discovered. I'll give you a brief background on it. This was actually published in the Findings of the National Academy of Sciences back in March. But 1971. 5 adult mating pairs of Italian wall lizards were released on the island of Croatia. Civil war breaks out, whatever. Luckily, or not luckily rather, but as luck would have it, they overran the island and now they're essentially an invasive species. But 30 years later, now that scientists have been able to go back and see, they've developed a brand new cecal valve. It's not something which was there before, because remember, scientists studied them before they were released. And it's a clear morphological structure. It's not something that's, you can overlook. I mean, it's a huge valve that allows for the digestion of plant material, which, is very high on the island of Croatia, and they had to adjust their needs. It's actually something called habitat partitioning. You should take a look at it. It's not something which was there before, which is, as we can see, because we have the original specimens that we released, in the sense of scientists studied them beforehand, and B, we have the original population back in Italy that we can study. So we know that they both, A, did not morphologically have it, and B, do not have the genes for it. Hence, it's without a doubt a brand new novel characteristic. Now, if you're asking, how could this have happened, then again, it's simply ignorance of evolution. Gene duplication and subsequent mutation in the duplicated segment allows for this. It happens every day. You've seen it dozens of times in the labs. It's not a secret, which is something that's always really mystified me as to why creationists have come up with this logic of no new information. I mean, it's happened dozens and dozens of times before. I'm just truly at a loss for words, as I've never understood it. But, I mean, nonetheless, it happens all the time, and in my new series in which I'm actually explaining evolution, which you should really take a look at because you clearly know nothing about it, yet feel qualified to make a video on it, I'll actually explain it around video 5 or so as to exactly how new genetic information is added without any deleterious effects to the organism whatsoever. I'm just kind of really at a loss for words for you, because again, you continually sit here and you make these videos just willfully professing your utter ignorance on the subject. I can't wrap my head around it. You go on even to discuss entropy, as if that relates to evolution whatsoever. I mean, you make the fallacy of equivocation of entropy equals disorder and, lack of complexity, which it utterly doesn't. I mean, this is evidenced not only by common sense and whatnot, but Kestenbaum in 1999 even demonstrated that entropy can increase while disorder is decreasing. So, I mean, it's a perfect example of exactly why you're wrong. I mean, you're making arguments that you know nothing about. And you think that this turns people on to Christianity? Are you kidding? You sit here and continually complain about the backlash towards Christianity and this and that, and how there's a war on Christianity. Well, maybe if you wouldn't sit here and willfully profess your ignorance so vocally, that wouldn't exist. I mean, you're arguing entropy? Tell me exactly how the order of heat flow has anything to do whatsoever with increasing complexity. They're utterly different, although next time that you mention, or now that you mention it, I should tell my girlfriend next time when she comes over and complains about my messy apartment that I couldn't clean it due to entropy. I mean, are you kidding? And you have my borderline sincere apologies if this is coming off as arrogant to you. I'm treating you like a colleague who's blatantly wrong and ignoring evidence, worthy of shame, which I'm doling out. Nevertheless, I would argue that this is absolutely nothing compared to the arrogance of thinking that you, with a high school level education in biology, are qualified or no more than every other career scientist on the planet. But nevertheless, since when has logic been your strong point? As far as Christianity goes with it, I'm kind of reminded of the story, I'm sure you've heard it, of a guy gets shipwrecked out at sea or whatnot. A boat comes by, and he's stranded out there, he's about to die. The boat comes by, and he says, no, God will save me, I don't want in, God will get me out of this. Another boat comes by, the offering to help him out. He says, nope, don't help me out, God will help me out. Guy drowns. When he gets up to heaven, he says, God, where were you? Why didn't you help me out? And God says, who do you think sent the 2 boats? And this is exactly what's happening. You're sitting here and you're mistaking for your utter ignorance, or you're sitting here and you're mistaking your ignorance of the evidence for there not being any. Honestly, Sean, get educated. I mean, watch some of my videos. I mean, there's plenty of ways to learn about evolution, and it's not very difficult. You don't have to have a formal education to do it. There's really no excuse for your ignorance. Have a nice night.